somebody else can see that because I can't. Awesome. Okay, so the question is, can popular music be art? I would say it is subjective to the situation and what kind of music it is.
I think it can be art. I think that at times it's very hard for it to be art, but as far as is it possible, yes, absolutely.
Yeah, I agree. I think that a lot of the time it doesn't really feel like it, right? But definitely, as you said, it's subjective, and from time to time there are things that really do speak to a lot of people in pop music.
I would agree. I think the biggest thing for me, like, though the readings seem to say that it's not art, I have a hard time agreeing with it because, like, I feel as if some of the things that they discuss actually enhanced art. But I'll talk about that.
Yeah. So why don't you start?
Okay, so I have two examples of popular music that I thought of that in concern to movies. That this music is popular, you know what it is, and despite the fact of its popularity, it still has that feeling, that authentic, unique feeling that nothing else has. Like, it hasn't lost that over time. And those two examples are the Imperial March from Star Wars Episode 5, The Empire Strikes Back, because I'm trash. And it doesn't matter if... Okay, should I play a little bit of it?
Sure, go ahead.
Okay. So, this was written back in the, I want to say 1980, and yet it hasn't lost any of that sort of like very powerful feel whenever you listen to it. You still are, you feel the domination, you feel the power of the Empire and Darth Vader when you hear this music, despite, again, it being so old.
See, I never even seen Star Wars.
But you feel that it's
yeah, and I know the
Same.
thing. Yeah, so I think that also speaks to, you know, I guess the impact.
Right. I think it's like, even just a casual Star Wars observer, like, one, first thing you think of context in Star Wars, right? Like, you get that that's where it's from.
Yeah.
But then also, like, you just know it's evil, right? Like, it's serious. And
You're
it's like,
afraid of this.
yeah.
You don't know what this is going to do with you.
Right.
Do you
That's
think that this
amazing.
qualifies as art?
Almost definitely, because it has that sort of, I don't remember what his name was, Benjamin, I guess?
Yes.
He was talking about how art specifically is unique and that you can't reproduce that or make it
Mm-hmm.
something that you can just sort of find anywhere. That song is incredibly unique because there's never been anything like that. Even when you hear it out of context, like you were saying, you feel that power.
Mm-hmm. I think on that point, with the Benjamin reading, I think that's pretty spot on. But I think we should also argue, you know, why was this music created? It was created to make capital profit. Because, you know, the
Not in terms of
composer,
Star Wars.
well, the composer never watched the movies. Yeah, no, it's true.
I know it's true, but I don't
Yeah,
believe
I know
it.
it's crazy, but yeah, he's never seen the movies, and I'm just wondering, you know, what would his motivation be for making music for a franchise he has no investment in? And the purpose of that would be profit. Maybe not the movie itself wasn't just for profit, but he had a job to do, and he did that job. So I guess the question is, does capital gain or capital motivation infringe on the right of music to be art?
I have an example of one song being used years after the composer died, and he did not do it for capital gain at all. He just was a musician.
Okay.
And that is, and this guy, the guy who wrote this he wrote it in about 1863 or 1893, and it's Thus Spoke something. And
Zarathustra.
that.
Oh yeah, this one. I know this one.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, definitely recognize this one.
Yeah, like, the usual context is with the Stanley Kubrick film 2001: A Space Odyssey. But even without that, despite the fact that, again, it's super old and it was not written for something that hadn't even been invented yet, the movies, it's still a very popular song and you know it.
Mhm.
And it fills you with an intense sort of epic feeling about going on an insane journey.
Mhm.
Sounds like Discovery, yeah.
Yeah, it sounds like Discovery.
Yep.
And that was not written for capital gain.
Which is nice to hear.
It's just another example.
Mhm.
So yeah.
Even when capital gain comes into play, I don't necessarily believe that that takes the artistry away from something.
Right.
Like, I
It's
feel
not with music.
I feel that with I feel that the readings would say they do, but personally, I don't feel as if it did. To kind of like converse the Benjamin reading, I feel like the development of technology has made it easier for different fields of art to come together and make like a combined universal art piece. And I had something I was going to show. Kendrick Lamar to me is a rapper who conveys messages in his music, and like he has some things that are important, though he does also like discuss things that are like stereotypical for hip hop music that aren't necessarily like meaningful. However,
Now, for those of us who aren't super into hip hop, what do you mean by a stereotypical thing?
but like to me, the stereotypical things that a lot of music plays, like sex, drugs, women,
Right.
like three big things. However, his music kind of looks at it in a different way, and I think he even kind of discusses sometimes in his music the route that technology is taken. So what I meant by that is, now we have music and photography and cinematography and like design all in one thing. So for him, I chose this particular part because of like what he says.
Fucking up your whole life. I'm so fucking sick and tired of the Photoshop. Show me something natural like Afro with your pride. Show me something natural.
Okay, so essentially, like, he has a message to it. He's basically saying that, maybe it's time to change the way that we look at people, like, and look at them as they are, rather than having to airbrush and edit everything out. So it's a good message. However, yes, he did do it with capital gain in mind.
Right.
However, with watching through the video, there's really interesting, like, concepts
Hey, this shit way too crazy. Hey, you do not amaze me. Hey, I blew you from ACA.
behind the cinematography of it, the overall like scene setting. Like there is an artistic aspect behind it.
Yeah. Now, I would disagree with the message being positive. I think it's a neutral message. Because, what he's saying is women stop doing this or Photoshop stop doing that. When, a positive message, in this lens of feminist thought would be, hey, if you want to wear makeup, if you want to Photoshop your face, then, do it.
I don't think the
so-
message
Yeah,
is about women doing it. I think it's about like capitalism
Yeah.
and the corporate whatever, people who are in charge of this who make women look this way. Like Carrie Fisher had to lose like almost a third of her body weight to play Princess Leia again, General Organa actually, in The Force Awakens, and I don't think he's talking
Star
about,
Wars again.
that's just where my mind goes.
With this song though, this is topping the charts right now, right? This song is huge in America, whether you like it or not. And the fact that we're even having this discussion right now about the deeper meaning of what this man's saying right now, does that not kind of point to the fact that there's some artistry here? You know what I mean?
Well,
See,
having some artistry doesn't really make it art. I think that's art, but I think it's important to not be like, oh, it's popular, therefore it's art. Or it has a good message, therefore it's art.
Well,
Well, no,
I agree
no, like-
completely,
like-
and that's what I meant. Like, in sociology, sometimes we talk about intersectionality.
Yeah.
Like, how things intertwine with one another. So, like, for me, it's the intersectionality of all these different art forms coming together. So not only do we have, like, lyric, we have instrument, we have cinematics, we have, like, stage setting, there are so many different talents and different like artistic abilities that are coming together to create this one symbolic piece. And though it may have been created like for monetary gain, like it does still have, it has a message, it has like a tone, it gives an understanding of a different environment. Like I feel like it's representative of something that maybe not each person's going to understand, but it's going to speak to different people, and ultimately that's like what art does, it speaks.
Right. Now, I don't think that making money off of something makes it not art, but I think that what we need to be more fixed on is the motivation. Like, I think that if the primary goal of music is to entertain and to make money, then it is not art. You know,
See,
I don't care what the message is, I don't care, you know, if it's this or this or that. If their primary motivation is to make money, it is not art.
Well, I can't, to an extent, I can't agree with that, simply because, like, though one of his primary goals,
That's like
maybe,
their job.
I don't know him personally, but, you know, his
Right,
goal...
and a job is not art.
Yeah, one of his goals may be, you know, yes, I'm doing this so I can make a profit. However, if he was solely doing it for a profit,
Primary.
then everything that he would, like, he wouldn't take the time to put in an important message or something that he feels people need to pay attention to. At the end of the day, like, if all I'm here to do is collect a paycheck, I'm not going to put the extra effort in to, like, make it worth something. I'm just going to...
Do you think the new Pepsi ad is art?
say, like, no.
It has an important message.
It has an artistic thing, but an artistic like aspect
It
behind
camouflages itself. as
Yeah,
art.
To make profit. I'm saying, you know, the primary, if their primary goal, not secondary or, you know, as incidental, that's fine, to make a living, that's fine. But if their primary goal is to make profit, then it's not art. You know, they can have a nice and pretty message, they can have, they can
You can
have,
attempt to have a nice message.
right, they can have a good message, like, it can be like all pretty, you know, do whatever you want, but if their primary goal isn't, you know, for the sake of art itself, then it's not art.
Well,
And I'm not sure if it's been recorded yet,
Uh-huh.
but I was discussing, because it got cut off, but I was discussing the Pepsi commercial, and how it has a supposedly good message, and it has everything, you know, that a good thing would have, but it's trying to, you know, monetize and commodify protest culture, you know, intersectional values, you know, protest, women's rights.
Why did that not work, but the Campbell's Gay Dads commercial worked?
The gay dads thing was innocuous, right? The gay dads thing was a matter of normalization.
And representation as well.
Right, that's about representation
It's not that I don't
and
like-
normalization.
I don't
The
think
reason-
that. I wanted to think.
Yeah, but
it was another example of a company using something that is supposedly controversial in their own advertising.
Right, but see, one of them is you know, representation and normalization. The other one, it wasn't that they depicted a protest. I mean, that's, you know, kind of irresponsible, but hey.
That's not how any protest
but-
I've ever seen
But
goes.
the problem with the Pepsi commercial was that they had the police officer and a white girl gave the police officer a Pepsi and said, like, hey, I'm great, I'm super. And, you know, it just tried to paint this certain picture and try to make it self-important. But the Campbell's ad was not, you know, at all the same.
Right.
see, my argument for
I mean,
this
I don't
is,
disagree with you.
my
It's just-
argument along these lines is that advertisement, no, it's not art. They may have artistic, like, things that get it going, but art, like, advertisement, I don't see it as an art. However, something like, though a music video, let's say, for a popular song may have, you know, a depiction of a scene, let's say it has a similar scene in it. The monetary gain, they could have just not produced a video for it. So in some cases, I do feel like going the extra mile, especially when the song has a meaning to it, and it's not like only stuff that's gonna like straight up sell and actually has substance. I feel like there is, I'm not gonna necessarily say it is art because it's like, it's all subjective, but it's more artistic than something that's just like advertisement, that's just using it solely to push a profit.
To bring back to bring into conversation the documentary we watched about like the background singers, what you were saying about like advertisements, how those people, like you usually, like you'll hear they're singing, doing their little jingle or whatever, like you would hear those singers in the documentary do their piece, but you don't know their names, you don't care about them, because it doesn't matter to you, so.
Right, like today in America, especially with social media and things like that, we see the most ridiculous subject matter getting promoted on like a very large viral scale. And people
What, just
consuming this.
people doing stupid things?
Maybe a bottle flip, maybe the Catch Me Outside girl, like whatever it may be.
I hate her so much.
Like this stuff getting promoted when there's people liking the movie that we watched, right? Who are putting their hearts into this stuff, right? They're extremely talented. They work very hard, and just because maybe there's not enough money in it for a record company, their stuff's not getting produced and it's not getting put out there on the same level that other stuff that is more mainstream pop music.
That's why we have 100 books about teenage vampires.
Exactly, like the exact same things just get like reproduced over and over and over again. We see it, they talked about it in Seabrook the Song Machine. Like this woman, literally her job is to consume media, right? Watch movies, see advertisements, catchy things, whatever it may be, and then spit it back out in a song over a hook that has been done 1,000 times already. And people just keep eating it up, right? I mean, is that art? No, there's no way that's art. It just can't.
Like I was super grossed out with the Seabrook article. Like I just don't. I have never really liked it whenever commodification and art, you know, kind of try to cross paths. Like whenever you have like these big ritzy companies going, hey, let's try to appeal to people with these advertisements, with these music, with these songs and everything, and they try to, you know, conscript artists to make things, but you know they're not doing it for art's sake anymore. It's kind of like they're betraying their own motivation, I guess. Whenever an artist contracts himself to a corporation, you know, to make some cool artistic thing just to sell like soup or dish detergent.
That kind of reminds me of like the whole Empire's the show that kind of made it well known.
Yeah.
But like the empires of the music industry and stuff. So you have these different companies that are all competing with one another, and like specifically one that's to me is really noticeable now is like the platforms at which we receive our music. So you have Spotify, Apple Music, but like you have Tidal, which is the only place you can listen to Beyonce's new album. So it's like if you want to listen to Beyonce, then you have to have Tidal. Like there's no way around it.
Right, and then it's like kind of a restriction of art, right? Like we're wrapping ourselves up with this company that we have invested in because our husband, you know, is a big player for the company, right? And then, you know, you're forcing your fans to pay this money for a subscription where they might not care about any other artist on there, but you know, they love Beyonce, right? And I don't know, it just seems like counterintuitive to what art means to me. And I think Adorno hit on this kind of stuff with the culture industry piece, right? Like he was disgusted by it, and how advertising, you know, it takes language that once had like real, true, deep meaning and like some human emotion behind it, feeling, whatever it may be, and it just kind of like spits it back out, and it's like you said, it was gross, right? It was a disgusting way. It just the commodification of it, it completely takes away the real message. And going back to what the Benjamin piece on the aura of things, how, like a lot of music from the past decade or so, is there like, you know, 30 years from now, is anybody going to get, like, are they going to care? Is it going to mean anything? Is there
Majority
even
of it, no.
Yeah, is there even an aura around it? Is it worth remembering? Probably not, right? And like a song's hot for a little bit, like listen to it for maybe a month, you know, maybe a summer, whatever it may be, and then I wouldn't listen to it again ever in my lifetime.
Has
right? If I had a
anyone
choice.
listened to the song Fireflies by Owl City since it came out?
No.
Oh gosh, that was like used in how many movies and crap.
Yeah.
But with the Adorno reading, I thought of a video one of my friends showed me a few years ago. He's a musician, right? And it was something along the lines of, please use my music in your advertisement. And it was like this music video about like young artists, you know, trying to record these nice, you know, happy-go-lucky songs, so that big corporations will buy the songs, like license them, and then use them in ads to make money. And like that's kind of how music has been reduced to, you know, to being, you know, some kitschy kind of like Kia or Subaru commercial on YouTube. You know, that's kind of what it's been like. So many songs that are popular today are used in those videos. Like it's very hard for me to think of any, you know, major artist that doesn't get used in some extent as a promotional item these days.
A lot of that music too was just sort of, it's all just what the like cisgendered heteronormative sort of story wants that like is being constantly promoted over anything else. Like any of these songs, none of them are about gay people, none of them about transgendered people or asexual people. It's all just about the regular boy falls in love with girl next door kind of BS.
That's a great point, and like you don't even see like with the because advertising plays such a heavy role in the music industry now. Like, as we've been talking about, like they want to associate those happy, like positive feelings with whatever the product may be, right? So like there's all these, there's a vast spectrum of human emotions that get completely ignored and by major music industry now, and it's disappointing, right? Because like I'm not always happy. I'm not feeling like listening to like I want sometimes I'm sad, sometimes I'm feeling emotional and or mad or whatever it may be, right? And it's getting glossed over completely by a number of artists just because they feel like there's not a market for it, when I feel like there's a lot of people who do want these kind of things, but the people with the big money don't necessarily care.
A lot of that music that isn't like stereotypically happy, the kind that you would listen to when you aren't feeling happy, when you're feeling like angry or depressed, people tend to like, oh, you listen to that, well then you must be a freak. I don't know if that's still like relevant to today, but I know a couple of years ago if you were like, oh, I listen to My Chemical Romance, oh, so then you're emo or something like that. So it's like, it's so interesting how companies have gotten into people's heads that if you don't listen to this kind of happy music, then you're a freak and you shouldn't be a part of society.
Adorno talked about that a lot in the culture industry thing, like the perpetuation of advertisements into stereotypes that people actually buy into, like in their real lives and when they're interacting with other people. It's kind of ruining human interaction because everybody, like their personality is a commodity now.
Like I've seen a lot of in like those family commercials. You have that white family, like their middle class home. And there's always gonna be like one kid who has like dyed black hair and headphones. It's like, Mom, you just don't understand me. God, I'm gonna go listen to like Chemical Romance and all that. Like it's very stereotypical, and it does kind of feed into it. So I guess it's not really about does art imitate life. It just does capital imitate life. But
Except now capitalism has decided how life and reality should be seen while also giving the middle finger to anything that doesn't go along with that lie.
Yeah. Now I do want to go back to what you said about the whole heteronormative thing. I don't think that it's only cis and heteronormative types of
Give me
structures.
5 popular songs about like...
Well, no, I've got one big example, and it's the commodification of drag culture. RuPaul's Drag Race. Their entire show is a commodity. Now, it's not a bad thing, but it is a commodity because every episode they have this, this makeup provided by NYX Cosmetics, or my suit designed by da-ba-da-ba-da, this trip for AlanChuck.travel. It's all a commodity.
Not to bring in discourse or anything more so than already, but I'm pretty sure a lot of transgender people do not particularly like drag
Right.
queens.
Well, I'm talking about it because it does commodify trans stories because a lot of the contestants have come out as transgender people. So, yeah. There's been at least 4. One of each season for 4 or 5 of the seasons have come out as transgender or transsexual.
I'm gonna look into that because now I'm very confused.
And 2 of them came out on the show.
Anyway, we're getting off topic.
Right. Well, I'm just saying that and that also goes to RuPaul's music. He uses his platforms to promote his own music. Sure, it's art, but it's also to make money. So the reason I discuss this is because I think this is a problem with every facet of society. There's no part of society that is like immune to this, and it's a spectrum. There is no pure art, and there is no pure commodity. Because we are an inherently capitalist society, every piece of art, every piece of music falls somewhere on the spectrum.
I would agree.
That made me think about street art. Okay, so we were talking about street art and just sort of the idea of like, well, these graffiti artists, what they do is, it does have a political statement most of the time. They aren't doing it for money, they're just doing it so they make sure people see their message without any sort of care about, like, they don't really do it because they know, oh, this is gonna screw over some government employee's day, they're gonna have to wash this off. They do it to show whatever they're thinking, whatever they're doing, and like 9.99 times out of 10, they're not getting paid for that. So and a lot of that art you do see online and stuff, so it is popular and it is definitely not being commodified.
Yeah, it's a very, very pure form of art because it is.
But it's also considered like anarchy.
Right. it's absent from that, that system of capital. Now, talking about the spectrum, as much as I like, the very popular artists, I don't think it's at all possible to separate them from the capital. Because, I don't think that you can be a pure artist if you're living like in a big thing that was paid for by your music, because there is some kind of capital motivation. Not to say they aren't artists, but it's kind of a pollutant, I guess. But I think that there's like, I thought about this a lot.
So as you were saying,
Right. So before I got cut off, I was talking about the spectrum. Because we are a capitalist society, every artist, every music artist, no matter what they're trying to do, falls somewhere on the spectrum of art versus capital. Is their motivation purely artistic? Is their motivation purely capitalistic? Now, I thought for a very long, I considered for a very long time, what kind of artist would be, that very Puritan idea of what art is supposed to be. That person who's very cloistered, who doesn't really have that type of desire for money. Mm-hmm. And I can only think of one person, and that's Björk, because she's been pumping out music since the 80s. She was in the Sugar Cubes, and she's released, I think, 8 albums. And all of them have been, so weird and crazy and beautiful and wonderful. But see, she sold millions of records. And you would think that she would live in like this, this big grandiose place, and she'd have like this giant piano, and she would, tour the world all the time and make all this money, do all these signings and write all these books, kind of Beyonce it up a little bit. But she doesn't. She lives in her family house in Iceland, where she lived before, she started making money from her music. Her record company is like, people who are her friends help her write her music. It's a very, cloistered, very pure type of art. There's no, big money involved. She just sells the records. A lot of it probably goes to charity, a lot of it probably goes to her family, a lot of it, there you are, a lot of it, that's like the Matrix. But a lot of it goes to that idea, that money isn't necessary to make art. You can just kind of, do your own thing, which she does. She has never cared about what anybody else thought. She played the Tibetan Freedom Concert, back when a lot of places were saying, no, don't play this concert. She's always done her own thing, and it's been, fantastic. And I think she's the only example of like the Puritan type of artist.
Back to commodification. I don't know if you guys have ever heard of the 4 chords of poppy music, but like,
yeah.
I figured I'd play the videos. So essentially, these 4 chords can make up a vast majority of
the 4 chords of the apocalypse.
Yeah, like they make most of pop songs that we listen to.
Here, or to learn how to play these 4 chords, or on piano or guitar.
so he takes 4 chords and makes different popular songs.
Okay, so I was talking about the 4 chords of pop music, and it's just essentially people on YouTube will play 4 chords and then sing 37 different pop songs on the loop of the same 4 chords.
Yeah.
Because essentially they all go down to the same basic 4 chords, basically insinuating that there's not much to them besides the crap that people write to put over it.
I guess that really is the song machine.
I'm glad this is the last one.
Yeah, God.
The last piece I want to say is that you were talking about Björk and the whole, like, there's a very, like, non-profit-esque thing going on, right? But I think that there are types of music, like hip-hop specifically, right, where there's an entire culture of escaping poverty through music, right? And I don't think that earning capital in this kind of sense is necessarily bad or counterintuitive to the type of music that they want to make. When music like that, I think it speaks to an entire group of people, right? And they can really relate to it, all across the country or even the world. And I think that when you do live in a capitalist society, whether you like it or not, it is part of the culture, right?
Yeah.
Everybody does have to make that money regardless. So if that's the goal of the artist too, like there is still some kind of artistry there, right? Like there's something there regardless of like how much money you're making or not. When you do live, the way that we all have to live, right?
Just really quick, that using music to get out of poverty, that made me think of Michael Jackson's We Are the World. like he used his popularity, he used his connections with other singers and musicians to create something to give money back to,
Right.
I don't remember the specifics, but just using that to help others.
And Björk is actually right now part of a, I think it's the 11 or 12 inches, but you know, like the record. And it's like a music box set where 100% of the proceeds are going to Planned Parenthood.
Oh, cool. So yeah,
Right.
sometimes
Yeah.
popular music can be
Yeah, so capitalism.
commodified for good.
Right,
That
like
capitalist-
commodification isn't like inherently bad, it's neutral. But if you're trying to put out an album just so you can afford like that bigger house, you know, that's where I'm gonna have a problem.
South Park did a really good joke at that, talking about how Jay-Z's son or something wasn't going to get that private island, and they were
That was
making
a great episode.
because like they were downloading music illegally because they weren't paying for it. So that meant Jay-Z's son's just not going to get his new island, and it's supposed to be heartbreaking. So yeah,
So the same four chords and think tanks producing music is not what we want for art, right?
No,
But,
we want suffering and pain.
I mean, with Trump as our president, isn't that our day-to-day life, anyways?
Agony.
Also,
Despair. Go ahead.
no, I'm just awesome. We're good here, I think.
Everybody good?
Okay, thank you so much. It's been a great class. See you at the exam. We're gonna die.
I'm dead inside already.
Same.